If instead we wanted to do a little play with little tiny figures, I would win. I'm Jess Kenyon, and this is The Dresser. Here we go. This week on The Dresser, we have Bri Sudia. How are you, Bri?
I'm so good. I'm in my house like everyone else.
Yes, like everyone else who's doing the right thing.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And what was I going to say to you? Oh, well, you just bought this house.
Yes. So we used to live downstairs. We lived downstairs for 5 years, and then I won't say anything really terribly disparaging, but living under a family as two people was challenging sound-wise. So we sort of had. I do voiceovers sometimes and definitely a lot of voiceover auditions. And for that, you need, relative control over the audio of your space. So I was getting kind of frustrated, and I was like, well, maybe we should think about moving, but we love it here so much that I was just like, you know what, maybe it's time to like just get out of here. And then my upstairs neighbors were like, hey, we're moving. And I was like, so we just ended up moving into their apartment and selling our old apartment. So we kind of got a new house, but it's also the same as our old house. It's just now we're dominant on top.
You're on the top.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. I mean, that's kind of the way to do it, right? Find a building that you love.
Good. It was good because like it involved almost nothing that like a usual move involves. Like we were able to be like, oh shoot, we have to get that for the house. Let me go upstairs.
Right.
Like, it was like a very comfortable way to move. We were super, super lucky in the way that worked out, and hopefully we'll be here for another 5 years. So
I hope so. Yeah, or even more.
Or the plants are just going to take over and there will be no places to sit down.
Which
is also possible because every time Colin goes to Home Depot, he just ends up with like 6 more plants. Or like any garden place or like anywhere he sees a plant, he's like, he looked sad. I thought we should have him.
Oh.
He's like a serial plant adopter dad.
I'm trying to get my cats used to plants because I have a high shelf in the kitchen where every plant in the house lives, which is pretty. I mean, it's very botanical, but let's put some other places.
Yeah.
So I put one on the dining room table, and now Tanuki thinks that's where the breakfast is.
The plant?
Yes, he will go and try to eat the plant every morning. And I'll be like, Tanuki, don't eat the plant. And he just looks at me like, oh, this plant?
Oh. This breakfast plant?
I thought, oh, okay, all right.
I thought this was for me.
That's interesting because it looks like breakfast. And then the next day he'll be like,
you know about the cat that we adopted?
Yeah.
Not adopted, but our neighbor cat that
your neighbor cat.
Call our cat?
Peppa?
Peppa.
Oh, I was close.
You were really close. That was good memory, Jess.
Yeah.
Peppa. Oh yeah, Peppa. Because we moved upstairs, Colin was extremely distraught about the possibility. Oh, we're both drinking La Croix.
Tink.
Social distancing, cheers. He was extremely distraught over the fact that Peppa wouldn't know where to find him. So don't tell our neighbors this. I hope my neighbors never see this. But we bought these cat treats, and now on the 3rd floor, whenever we go out the back door, we give Peppa a treat when she comes up all the way up and passes where she used to stop to visit us. And that new lady who's moving in downstairs, she's going to get a cat at her door every morning shouting. She's going to be like, what? I left her a note on the door about Peppa because I was like, don't complain about this cat. I'm worried that she's going to hate the cat. Like, what if she has a cat? What if she's a dirty cat hater?
Well, you, as you said, have the high ground. So
that's
if
right.
You find out she's a dirty cat hater, you can just take up, we think our upstairs neighbor do something called bowling hour, where they just throw things from one end of the house to the other. I don't know what they're actually doing. I can't understand how someone can make so much noise regularly for an extended
1 hour.
Of time.
Are they working out maybe?
Maybe.
Are they doing some sort of
lunging,
ropage? I don't know. I don't do any of that stuff, so I don't know the words.
I don't want to know the words, but yeah, so you could just pick up bowling hour if she starts to be a cunt.
Great.
Yeah,
Just
maybe. Will we leave cunt in? We'll see.
we'll see.
You
We'll
choose.
live on the edge.
Okay, what was the first show that we did together?
Must have been Pericles, right?
Pericles, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember anything about that play?
I remember, well, I met Colin in that play. That
Oh,
was
yeah.
the first time that we met. I remember that I had just worked upstairs in Roadshow.
Yep.
So Roadshow was my first show at Chicago Shakes, and it was up on the 6th floor in the, what do we call that theater? The Cabaret Theater? Studio? Yeah. Which was funny because they almost never do shows up there. It's so rare.
It's bizarre
And
that they never.
then to do like a pretty, I mean, it was like a fairly large scale musical. And I just remember we had to run so far to get to because the
Yes.
entrances were way up, in that
You basically have to go all the way around the theater.
Exactly.
There's
You have to
way
make
to go
like a full loop.
backstage, really.
Yes.
Go all the way around.
And where we did our quick changes was where the audience would go if they had to leave the theater for any reason.
Yeah.
And the dressers basically had to act as like bodyguards for the actors to make sure that we wouldn't murder patrons and they wouldn't slam into us. Like if they tried to leave, well, because we were just running the whole time with like instruments in our hands and singing off stage and playing off stage and running on to just play a little thing and then go back. I don't know why I'm miming the violin. I don't play the violin, I play the flute, but that's what comes to mind is Regina running with the violin and doing like and then like in another corner. Yeah. But so that was my first experience upstairs, which was just such a unique thing. And the dressers just had to like just ran miles and miles and miles during that show. And then I came downstairs for Pericles and it was just like way more chill. The cast was bigger. I had less responsibility. I just remember it being like so enjoyable because I had some people that I met for the first time, like Charisse Hamilton, like really Emma Lodgy, like people that would become acquaintances that stayed in my life for the length of time that I've lived here. It was just like a great group of people. And I met Colin, of course, so that was nice.
That was nice.
Yeah.
You just wore a lot of cape things, drapey.
It was a lot of capes. It was probably like the highest portion of capes I've worn. I think what was interesting is that like we had the women sort of had two different looks. Like if you were, I'm gonna say this, if you were a petite lady, you wore sort of tight-fitting yoga pants and tight tank tops. And if you were remotely curvy, you got sort of like a blousey pajama top and like a full, like a wide leg pant.
Yeah.
And I just remember being like, why don't I get to wear a yoga pant? My body's great. Don't these people deserve my butt? And then I remember halfway through, I started wearing, because Colin was an understudy, I started wearing, this is so bad, I started wearing Colin's understudy yoga pants because his pants were tight on me. So I would wear his like better fitting pants because he was not around.
Well, it's kind of sexist, right? To make it, it's like fat phobic in some way, even though like nobody was even remotely fat. Sadly, I wish there was just more fat people.
I'm sure the intention was just to have like a variety of styles of the clothes so we weren't all matchy. But boy, it sure did feel like it was just sort of like, shh, don't look at the lady. She wants to hide.
She's juicy, so let us put her butt in a big pant.
Put her butt in a big pant. And they were sort of tie-dyed. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah. Like we still have all of them in a box for some reason. Because someday we're going to need 40 sets of tie-dyed pajamas again.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I remember. It was lots of capes. It was the blue pajamas.
Lots of jersey, ponchos, rope belts. I
remember the men were all shirtless.
Oh, yeah. I think this is where I first invented the Jewelry Tracker 2000, which was a Kleenex box that I cut up and like taped in other parts of the Kleenex box to keep jewelry separate.
Yes.
Track it around the theater.
we wore a ton of jewelry. It was like big
Chunky.
bangles. I remember that Ben, who played Pericles, had that metal necklace sort of in the shape of a banana.
Yes.
Do you remember his banana necklace?
Yeah.
He hated his banana necklace because whenever he did something too physical, his banana would hit him in the teeth, and he was afraid. He was afraid of like cracking his front teeth out, like while playing the starring role of this play, about being like, "My lord," and just having like game over, broken teeth, Pericles.
I mean, he was lost at sea. It would fit.
Can you imagine? But can you imagine like breaking your teeth on like
No.
on stage?
No, on a shitty necklace, absolutely not.
Oh, also like to contrast the sort of fat phobic pajamas though, I did have that incredibly sexy and revealing lady of the evening outfit with like my whole stomach out. Do you remember that?
Oh, yes.
I had that like mini crisscross. It's not unlike the top I'm wearing, actually. It was like a crisscross top, and then it had the little like jangles on the bottom of it. And then I had these cute harem pants and that sick wig. That wig was that was my favorite wig I've ever worn.
This was for the scene where she gets raped in the like,
I think that's right.
Whatever.
It was Christina Pampilio and Sean Fortunato, and they were great. And I don't know what the scene was about because
oh yeah, he wasn't. It was
I don't remember. Oh, Derek. It was Derek Trump.
Derek, yes. What happened to that guy? I liked him.
He's around, I think.
Man, I wish I could work with him again. Nice dude.
Nice dude.
The other thing I wanted to say about Pericles is that there's a point near the end of the show where Pericles' wife, you don't know it's her, and she's like dressed as a nun.
Yeah.
And then she faints. And Pericles says, "Look, the nun, she dies," which got a giant laugh every night.
Yes.
Which was shocking to me every night. And Katie Courts and I came up with this thing that we would do. And I would go, "Ha! The nun dies!" And now Trey and I still do that in our house when things are really inappropriate. Or people like laugh at shit where we're like, "What are you laughing at?"
That's very funny you should say that, because I have two very, very specific stories from Pericles that I tell, which is one is when Sean Fortunato and I were in a crowd scene where we, as the crowd, all we did was yell huzzah a bunch of times. And a spider came down from like the fly rail. Did I ever tell you this story? This giant spider who had clearly been living in the Chicago Shakes flies for like a million years decided to like make his appearance during this ensemble scene.
I do remember
this.
Sean
and I were standing, he was like next to me here, and all of a sudden Sean goes, "Do you see that spider? Do you see that spider?" Like just quiet enough for me to hear. And I was like, "What? Oh my God, that's a really big spider." And he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna get it." And he waited until the next time that we were about to have a crowd explosion, and he grabs the spider web and goes, "Huzzah!" and just throws the spider on its web. Like the spider was like coming down, and he just like grabs it, throws the spider, and screams, "Huzzah!" And I was just like, I have never seen anyone cooler in my life.
Wow.
And the other Pericles story was when an older member of the audience, it was towards the end of the play, and we were all standing on stage singing that Latin song Ad Bonum Quo that we sung at the beginning and at the end.
Yeah.
That's right. It'll stay with me forever. I could do it now. And I just remember that Pericles had a quick change up center.
Yeah.
Right? It was, he was going from scary journey Pericles to sexy king Pericles.
Right. Or
something. And the entire cast was on stage except for Ben, and he was up center that came through the audience. And at Shakes, there's those big heavy double doors that open out, like you push through them to go down the aisle and towards the stage. So the whole cast is sort of like somber and singing this like coronation march, and all of a sudden we're all looking at the doors, like waiting for the doors to open and Ben to like come down the stairs, and all of a sudden I just see this like very, very senior lady get out of her aisle and go up the center aisle. Like she's really, it's taking her time, and she's clearly like not really steady on her feet, and you can just feel the whole cast like, Oh God. Oh my God. Like, and she's just like, we're singing a quote unquote. And she's just like going, it's like we were watching her go to her death, just waiting for the doors to just
Why
impact her.
open?
And all of a sudden, like the moment comes and the doors are about to open, and just like this house manager just goes like, and like takes her out like as the doors open, and then just like completely oblivious like enters as the king. And I was just like, saved her life. You saved that lady's life.
Ooh.
She would have been killed by those double doors in seconds.
They're so violent. Why is it built like that? We'll never know. We'll never know. All right, well, that was Pericles. Tell me, Bri, what is your makeup item must-have?
Well, you know what my makeup item must-have is the Q-tips.
Yes.
I have a problem with cleaning my ears. I clean my ears. I've never looked up the consequences of cleaning my ears so much. I think the internet would probably have a lot to say about me cleaning my ears so much. Although I would just like to offer that I don't like really go like all the way. I just like the sensation sort of on it. Anyway, I love cleaning my ears, and I especially clean my ears in times of trouble.
It's a coping mechanism.
It is a coping mechanism. And because you know about it, that means in any dressing room that you and I are in, you're always just like, why don't you clean your ear about it?
I've actually, the first time I cleaned my ears during quarantine, of course, immediately I thought of you. And I was like, I saved this one for like 3 weeks. And then I was like, oh.
So good. It's so satisfying
so
and peaceful. I also think it like tunes other people out because you can't hear anything. You can
hear the Q-tip wiggle. Oh.
I mean, so that's sort of my comical answer. I guess my serious answer would be I'm obsessed with those like Neutrogena makeup remover wipes, the ones that said patent pending for like 40 years. Like they finally got a patent. I don't know what was up with them, but I mean, what am I putting on my face that was not patented? I don't know, but
you like the blue ones?
The blue ones, because they just like go, you can go from like 1,000 pounds of 2-show day makeup to 0 and feel like you're done. And whenever I take all of my show makeup off and I go into the lobby, like generally if I go out completely barefaced, no one will recognize me or talk to me. They're just sort of like, who's that crazy woman? So I just like appreciate the ability to go from like totally done to like absolutely 0. Basically I'm ready to go to bed.
Yes. Didn't somebody order you didn't you order like a case of them, or Colin ordered them
for Christmas? He gave me a case of makeup remover wipes, so I didn't have to buy them for like a year.
Good boy.
Really good. He knows.
Yeah.
He also says that the smell of them now makes him go to sleep. He calls it nighttime face.
Nighttime. Oh.
Yeah. He calls it nighttime face. So he's like, I smell nighttime face, and he knows it's time to like go to bed when I use that on my face, because that means we're gonna go to sleep.
Oh my God, it's Pavlovian.
Truly.
I love it. That's so cute. Okay, what are my other questions? Oh, what is your what do you have to bring with you to the dressing room to make it feel like home?
Oh, I'm a huge decorator. I mean,
you are.
I'm a huge decorator because I just feel like it makes me happy. Like you do spend more time at your station when you're in the run of a show than you do almost any place else, it feels like sometimes. So I always keep a book. I always keep a charger. I always keep I have a set group of photos that always go with me. Photos of my best friends, photos of my favorite shows, photos of Colin and I. And then just some pretty art prints that just make me feel like myself and relaxed. And I usually bring a fake plant because I'm such a plant person that a fake plant just makes me feel like I'm doing the right thing. During Shayna Madel at Timeline, I had an actual window and I had a real plant for the first time. And that was so very exciting because I came in every day and was like, how are you doing? Do you need water?
Windows. What a concept.
And I guess everything but the bagel, Trader Joe's seasoning comes with me everywhere because why not? It saves me.
It can make everything better.
It makes everything better.
I had some Trader Joe's seasoning. I don't know what it was, but it was salt, pepper, red pepper. Maybe it had some turmeric in there.
Yeah, their blends are really good. The other one I love is the chili lime.
Ooh.
the chili lime, because you can put it on fruit. Like if you can get your hands on like pineapple or mango
Yes.
for a snack. Oh, huge snacker. Erica, Stefan, and I went through like, I don't know, 4 of the large size of goldfish during Emma. I mean, the massive, yeah. So.
You also have nice like plates, pretty little plates to put earrings and
I like
a nice cup to drink out of.
I really like, I'm one of those people that knows that I am happier when I am organized.
Yeah.
But it does take a lot of effort for me to execute that. Like I also like don't like going on stage until it's organized.
Sure.
So
it's kind of like going on vacation, right? Like you clean your house before you go on vacation. So then when you come back, everything's nice.
Yes. And also like I tend to sort of fly in during the show and like do some more stuff and then like fly out. And I just like know that by the end of the night, it's going to be kind of all over the place. So I just like to come in the time, which is usually why I'm so late to get dressed. Cause I'm like, just like derping around with my stuff. Putting my earrings back in the earring dish, putting my lipsticks back in the lipstick spun, brushes.
And then it's 5 and you're not wearing any clothes.
And then you have to force dress me.
Yes, but I don't mind. Usually.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, if everybody's decided that it's a forced dress.
I will say that on the whole, I feel like on the bad days, I'm dressed.
I do feel like you have an awareness of the rest of the room, and when other people are slacking, you think that you can't slack, which is very helpful.
I try. When the vibe is open for slacking, then I'm your number one slacker, really.
Yeah, but sometimes everybody's fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we still make it because panic.
Well, and you have enough panic in your job that, you know, you have enough things. So I don't want to be one of them. You're generally putting out fires.
I would love some panic right now. Maybe I should have Trey just like set up a bunch of weird shit that I have to like hang up around the house really fast.
Oh my God.
It requires some thinking, but yeah.
I love this idea.
Somehow that I can just like feel useful and really efficient in a small amount of time. What
if I gave you some prompts? If I was like, I need Trey to be dressed like a pirate, like a, like what if I came up with some prompts and that you had to put together an understudy costume from things you currently own? Because you're really good at becoming a costume designer when it's time to put actors in costumes for understudy tracks that they don't have costumes for yet.
It does happen. I mean, and it's like, that's nobody's fault that people go out in previews or, when they have not, like sometimes people aren't even hired to understudy, it seems like, until we open the play. And then they decide, actually, it doesn't really make sense to have one person covering 9 tracks. Maybe we ought to get a second person to help with that. Let's hire them a week after opening, and then they have to go on for 6 of those tracks in one show, and they don't have any clothes. And although it's very frustrating, it's also pretty fun.
I mean, you're really good at it too. That's the thing. Like, I've seen you do it a couple times, and every time it's just like, it's magic. It's a skill.
It is a skill that has been honed through necessity. But a skill nonetheless. I think my favorite one ever was we did this R&J, the main stage before the last main stage. And, like somebody's leg, they'd like tore their ACL, and somebody, Steve Haggard, like broke his occipital bone in second preview or something. And so we had to put somebody on as Friar John. And it was just like, you're not in that scene, so you're going to be Friar John. Here's a robe. And I taped his lines to the front of a Bible. so that he could go out on stage and just like say the fucking lines on the front of the Bible and
That's
then
genius.
exit the stage.
And that night he was just like, the Bible, like to the audience, they were like, what a devout priest, man.
Well, he is so priesting.
He's just really
priestly. Tell me, Bri, what is your favorite costume that you've ever worn?
It's so unfair.
I know, of course. Especially, I had a lot of trouble picking one for myself, for you as well. So,
I mean, can I do like some highlights?
Do some highlights. Yeah, give them to me.
Okay, I think, well, the one that I mentioned to you before was the red coat that I wore in the second half, really only a couple scenes of Sweeney Todd. And
it was designed by Theresa.
Yes, and she made me this red brocade, like red and black brocade trench coat, essentially, with like a very large sort of almost Elizabethan like collar. And it was just very extreme. Like the coat was very extreme, and it was quite different from anything else that I had worn in the show. Which, I mean, I think that Mrs. Lovett usually is sort of costumed like a little frumpy.
Totally.
And like a little bit of a mess, but she did not see it that way. And she just gave me these like slick sort of Kiss of the Spider Woman style. Like I had like mesh gloves, and I always had like if not cleavage, like a little bit of like a deep V, and always like stuff around. And then my hair was sort of the traditional Mrs. Lovett, like.
But it was pretty crazy. It was
pretty crazy. Yes. And it just really, it told like it helped me tell the story that we all agreed that we were telling, which was that this was just like a much more capable and hopeful and, more Lady McBee style Mrs. Lovett than I think a lot of people expected, or was what people think of when they think of the role, sort of in the Angela Lansbury type of like a more haphazard sort of like, oops, did I do that sort of vibe. And all I know is that the show was so hard. Like it was so hard and tiring.
It was insane. It was like this crazy scaffolding.
Yeah, it was like 4 stories. It was almost like it was like a 4-level set, and you couldn't even go on the 4th floor because it was just for show basically. But the set was like absolutely massive, and it had this elevator track inside of it. So when you were on the 2nd floor, there were all these sections that were capable of dropping out to become the elevator. So the floors always like jiggled on the 2nd level, and it was filled with scariness. And the show is so like, the music is so relentless.
Yeah.
And stressful. Like the music is super stressful. And I am someone who, like, if I'm sad, I cannot listen to a sad song unless I want to cry. Right. Because I'm so affected by tone and pitch, and it's just like, and on the other side of that, if I'm feeling like shit and I listen to something that's joyful, I just feel better. But doing Sweeney was like, the music was so relentlessly aggressive that it actually, like, when that show closed, I felt like a 10-pound weight had been lifted off of me, because I'd just been living in this like gripped place for a while. But towards the end of the show, I always started to feel like relief. Like I always started to feel like almost there. Like all my big numbers were done. All I had to do was the finale. And I loved the finale because I knew so clearly like how everyone was going to feel about it, and how it would just like, there are some shows that you do that are so sort of well made. Like Sweeney Todd is such a well made play that when you get to the end of it, for the performers, it's such a joy to be like, and now we're going to get you, like, we're going to get you. You're going to walk away from this being like, hell yeah, that was great, or whatever. What a great story. And I would put on this red coat for the final fucking scenes. Like when Mrs. Lovett like really came into her power and was sort of at like she was at her peak sort of delusion about having succeeded and everything being great. And I would just put on this coat, and she made me this she had the idea that this keychain with all of my keys to like the different things that I controlled, like the basement of the bakehouse and the different rooms of stuff would be on this keychain. And the keychain traveled from costume to costume. So like, even as Mrs. Lovett like developed, I kept these keys, this sort of like really intense keychain with me. And I would transfer the keychain over to this red coat. And it was just, I think it was just, a lot of costumes have made me feel a lot of ways because I've worn a lot of like amazing things. But there was something about playing this role in this scale of a production, being so afraid of it, having so much anxiety, and really, I had a tough time with the show and a lot of the process. And I just really had to face a lot of my personal demons in the process. And it really made me sick. Like I felt very sick through a lot of the performances, just with pressure that I put on myself. And the material was, for me, who's someone who's primarily an actor, the material was so frightening and so overwhelming. And I felt like, what if I was just coming off of Wonderful Town, which was considered to be, you know, like successful. And I felt all this pressure to like deliver something. Cause, you know, Wonderful Town was me being a comedian and me being like weird and relaxed. And I was myself. A lot of what made Wonderful Town work was just how relaxed I was, because I didn't have to do anything that made me afraid. There was no super complicated singing. I mean, there was patter songs and stuff, but nothing that required the musicality and the sort of precision of doing a giant musical like Sweeney Todd.
A Sondheim musical. I mean,
and arguably one of the hardest female roles that's written in the musical theater canon. You know, it's really friggin' complicated and long. And I just know that when I put this coat on, I just felt like I really felt like a rock star. Like I actually felt like I had done it. Like it was the type of power trip that was exactly what was happening in the play. And it gave me that power. And then I didn't actually feel like I was acting, because I felt like a crazy, beautiful, strong, like
badass
bitch, you know, like because it went to the floor, and when I walked, it sort of like flung out behind me. And I was just like, man, I totally understand how this character believes that she's in the right. And I think it made I think wearing that thing, and also Mrs. Lovett tells like a whole bunch more lies at the end that lead to people's demise. And it's sort of like the final, like, you know how in like action movies, there's like a couple of deaths and then towards the end, it just like escalates. And it just really escalated the whole thing for me. And there was something about Theresa's coat that I was just like, man.
Was it really heavy?
It was really heavy.
Yeah.
It was really heavy, and it only closed in the center, I believe. Yeah. Like it only closed in the center. So she had built this crazy gorgeous black and white thing underneath of it, this other black and white dress that I wore for the top of the second act, or somewhere in the second act, that was sort of supposed to mimic like a wedding dress when she sang By the Sea to Sweeney about sort of persuading him that why don't they just get married. She built me this sort of suggestive whitish wedding dress, but it was still Mrs. Lovett because it had like black stripes in it and black stripes in the skirt. So when I walked, like all these black stripes sort of opened up. I think spiders was like a huge influence for all of my clothing. So yeah, but it only attached in the middle so that when I walked, you could see all of the black and white striping underneath of it. And you could sort of see the black and white here. But it was just like a deep, deep V and then a deep V out. And it had like a little baby train. Yeah, it was just, and it was made for me. You know, it was one of those, is that feeling of having something like perfectly tailored to you.
Yeah.
And it just felt so good.
It's pretty awesome. The only thing that I've ever worn that was like made for me was my wedding dress. But that's the dress you want to feel like a badass in.
Yeah.
So
that's like something I remember very specifically, like the first time I ever had a costume made for me, because in college, we obviously just pulled, you know, there was never anything made for me. And I remember for the first time when they said, you know, like, we're making this dress from scratch for you. And I remember going to the fittings and thinking like, this is the coolest thing ever. And this is magic. Like, I would go in for fittings every 4 days and they would have a new part of it built. And I remember the first time I had a corset made for me as opposed to having one pulled for me.
Ooh, big difference.
Big difference. And I just remember being like, oh, this is how this is supposed to be. Yeah, that's like it's a really special transformation. And, you know, most designers are like super interested in having a conversation with the actor about like what their preferences are and what they feel like would help them feel the most like the character. Like, I remember Marianne, who designed Emma, I remember her and I having a conversation about how, even though in the period a lot of women sort of covered their bust a lot, I remember sort of saying, I feel like my character would really not cover it. Like, she would want to like shove it up and in people's faces as much as possible. And she was super open to that and actually made that happen for me, which led to a joke, which led to one of my favorite bits in the whole performance. So, you know, that was because she was sort of like, oh, hell yeah, like, let's do that. Yeah, we were going to put a thing in, but let's, you know, she was going to have me wear my new fichu. But,
yeah.
you know, so yeah, it's great when designers are interested in including the actor in the conversation and making that, you know, a process together to make little tweaks here and there to make them feel more comfortable and more like the person they're embodying.
Absolutely. I think it's vital because you're not going to be able, you got to feel good in what you're wearing. You have to feel like those are your clothes.
Yeah.
As Al Silber said in my last one of these, but absolutely. And also like just function too. Like, if you have to raise your arms and you can't pick your arms up to here.
Yeah.
I mean, like, certainly that is period in some instances, but do we have to what do you want? Do you want me to not move my arms, or do you want me to act? Like, pick one.
Yeah. A long time ago, I feel like when I first started working professionally, and I still struggle with this, but I am a person who wants to point those things out early.
Yeah.
Like, I am a person who wants to be like, hey, so just so you know, like, I remember a specific instance, which was for Wonderful Town. Anna Kuzmanic designed Wonderful Town, and she made me this red gown, this sleeveless, very skinny, red strapped, like, evening gown out of like satin or something, some very expensive red drapey fabric. And I had a million fittings for this dress. And in rehearsal, like, I wasn't, and sometimes this happens, like, I wasn't entirely clear when exactly that dress was meant for.
Right.
And I was sort of like, oh, I wonder, like, which one of these sections is supposed to be the red dress section. And it turned out that the red dress section was when I was dumped out of a mail basket, did a somersault, landed on my stomach, and then crawled. I never stood up in the red dress. Never stood up. And I remember Anna coming to me and being like, oh, it's so sad about the red dress. Like, because we did all these fittings, and she'd be like, so, you know, stand up straight in the fittings. And like, some amazing human did all of the tailoring on this dress. I should have bought the dress. Like, it was like made perfectly for me. And yet it only crawled on the floor and was dumped out of a mail basket to do a somersault in. I mean, truly, that was the time where I was like, yeah, I guess I should have clarified this one. I felt horrible. But yeah, it's hard for me to figure out the line of being like, so just so you know, like, I remember in Emma, we talked a lot about how the dancing was choreographed moving backwards. Yeah. But we had trains on the dresses. So we were trying to figure out, like, kind of who was going to give, like, was the choreography going to change? Was the train on the dress going to change? Like, what needed to sort of give. And I feel like there's always those things. Like, it's always like, which thing is going to get tweaked in order to make this safer or better or easier. But I feel like my go-to is just to sort of let it work itself out, because it usually doesn't have a lot to do with you, you know. I just have learned to be honest in my fittings and not say the shoes fit when they don't fit.
Well, definitely. That's always better. It always it doesn't surprise me because I understand that you like want to be accommodating and and there's like 20, 10 to 20 other people who all have clothes and they're working with those clothes as well.
Yeah.
But then it just like, it makes my brain blow up when like the day after opening 5 people are like, actually this isn't, and this and this, and I hate this bra, and then I'm like, okay, I will be back with 40 bras for you to try on that you might like better. But always say the thing, do it, say it.
It's so much better. I think when you're young and you're just so excited to have people giving you shoes, like, and people giving you like choices at all, you just want to make it, you just want to make it work.
A lot of people pick the aesthetic choice over the comfort choice.
Yes, not
which I understand. Like I bought a lot of very pretty shoes that I wore once or twice.
Yeah.
Before I stopped buying any shoes at all. Now I just wear like Crocs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I pretty much, I put so many insoles in my show shoes and in my life shoes. I've become an insole person.
Oh yeah.
And I just like every pair of shoes that I buy, I just like shoving it with insoles. And I have to like audition the insoles because some of them are like weird. And
I like the idea of those jelly ones, but I don't like them because they just like, they like fall apart, they fray at the edges, and then there's little bits of jelly bits.
I hate it. And also like if you're dancing and your feet are getting sweaty, you feel like you're just on like a slick, like inside of the shoe, you feel like you're on a slick surface. Like there's no like grip for your foot. And I'm very picky about my shoes. You saw what I did to my Emma shoes. I had like 14 insoles.
I felt so bad about those shoes.
I mean, it's just, I have a weird foot. And so I just like have to do what I need to do to the shoe to make it sustainable for that many hours a week for a shoe that's not made to be worn that many hours. Like that's most show shoes are not, unless you're like lucky and you're wearing like a custom like LaDuca or something, which almost never happens. You're wearing a shoe that's like an office shoe or something.
Right. That's
not like
Payless. Fucking Payless, buy one, get one pair of flats.
Yes. Or in my case, because I have a giant foot, you're wearing something that came from, a Zappos warehouse because you needed a size 11 shoe.
Yeah.
There's not that many choices that are cute in my size. So there are more now than there were 5 years ago or 10 years ago. But like, man, when I was like a young person doing plays, I had to supply my own shoes because people would just be like, I don't know how to get a booty for Oliver in a size 11 or 12. And I would just be like, I have some. Do you want to use mine? Giant foot.
Oh, poor thing. Well, we were talking about Wonderful Town, and that's my pick for my favorite costume of yours, which actually pisses me off because this is my third on a Kuzmanic fucking show in a row, and I wish I didn't know. I just, here's what I do. Here's my process. I ask for a resume, and then I look at all the clothes on the resume, and then I just do a general Googling, and I scroll through, and then I'm like, this costume or this costume. I think about it in context of the whole play. I think about it in the time period. What is it probably made of? What is it maybe symbolize for the actor? And then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna pick this one. It's choking me up.
You choked on it. Don't choke, drink the water.
And again, the costume, you wore a lot of great things in that.
Oh my God, they're beyond. It's stunning.
So the play is originally set in the 30s, but this is the 50s.
Yeah.
Which is great. I think a very cool time for clothes. And we don't do 50s really ever, and everybody looks hot, except the hair is kind of stupid with like butt in the middle of the back for the men. They have to have one thing that we don't like, but
that's fine. We didn't have a lot of butt hair for the men. I feel like we sort of ignored that trend a little bit.
It's better. Don't do it.
Yeah.
You don't have to be perfectly,
Yeah, I don't think we did a lot of that.
But you, so Wonderful Town you're from Ohio and you come to New York and you were a writer in the play, and they're like, go home and whatever.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Comedy ensues and singing, and I don't know anything about the number, that like why this number is in the show.
Yeah,
it's like a swing.
Yes.
Snappy, jazzy swing number. Yes. And I watched a video of it, and you're like, it's like you're catching the dance from other people.
Yes.
But it's a little, without the context, I have no idea what's actually happening. But the dress is this like 3/4 length. It's the perfect black dress. I want this dress. I want 7 of them.
Oh my God.
3/4 length black sleeve. It has like is it a square neck? Is it a boat neck? We'll show.
I think it's a boat neck.
I think it might be. I don't have it right in front of me. And then it just goes in at the waist with a really simple belt, A-line flare at the bottom.
Yep.
It's like right under your knee.
Yep.
It is gorgeous.
And it sparkles. The fabric was like a thick, black, stretchy sparkle.
Yes.
Ugh.
I want 7 of them.
Mm.
I would wear that dress every day.
What's funny about that is that I did wear that dress in the show again in a different fabric. So my whole first act costume, the green, not the suit, but the green one that you see with like a little apron over it, and that I wore in Conga. If you see pictures of that number, it's the same cut, it's the same pattern, it's just a different material. So once we figured out that was like the dress, then she just made it basically twice in 2 different materials.
Yes.
But yeah, that number was so special. I only really wore that dress for that number. And essentially what was happening was that Ruth had gotten a job as like a street barker for a jazz club.
Uh-huh.
And so at the beginning of the song, I'm wearing it was unbelievable that they made this hat, but it was a light up hat that said Vortex on it, and it flashed. So it was like a very large hat that had like flashing lights that said, I can't remember if it said Village Vortex or just Vortex. I think just Vortex. And it was like an advertisement. Like instead of wearing a sandwich board, Mary Zimmerman decided I would have a flashing hat.
Before the sign spinners.
Exactly. So basically she was a sign spinner, except Mary decided that she wanted me to have a flashing hat because she wanted me to feel like as stupid as possible because she hates this job. So she's supposed to read the cue off of the flyer. Basically, she has flyers that she's supposed to pass out in this cool and hip part of town. And the flyer is supposed to say, step up, get hip, come on down to the Village Vortex, home of that new jazz craze, swing. And like she starts the song trying to like get people to like come to the club, but she's like the least cool, the least on rhythm, like doesn't have any sort of or she's not coordinated. And through a lot of the show she's been sort of like trying to figure out like where her place is, or like figure out, she knows that she believes in herself, but she doesn't have enough life experience to sort of feel like she can release her confidence on the world.
Sure.
And so the number kind of occurs in a place in the show where she's sort of at her lowest low, like she's working this job, she's pissed off the guy that she's into, her sister's off dating like a million guys and having success, and she just feels like, is feeling like frustrated and shitty, and now she has to figure out how to like be cool. And so the black dress was sort of part of the in the idea was sort of part of the outfit for selling the club, like almost like a uniform. And when the lights were on it at first, you really didn't see, I don't think that you really saw the sparkle in it. Like
Yeah,
it just
it
sort of
looks
looks
pretty
like a
matte
flat.
in the beginning of the number.
Yeah.
It looks just like a flat linen.
Right. And sort of looks just like a really simple black dress. And then I take the hat off at some point in the number. And the whole idea is that the ensemble is sort of these cool downtown people who are kind of starting to gather around while I hand out these flyers. And I'm sort of taking them gathering around as like a good sign that like, yeah, these more people are into this, but they're really there to be like, check out this square, and to try to be like, girl, you are a mess. Like you have no rhythm. So we even did a section where they tried to teach me how to like snap on the beat. And then they would try to teach me like little like things I could do to be considered.
Steps.
Yeah, little steps to be like kind of considered cool. And the music of this, I mean, Bernstein is so good, but the orchestra really goes berserk in this number. There's a huge dance break where like everyone would sort of flock around me and sort of try to get me to like get caught up in the vibe, and it works. Like she has this total like break with reality, and she tries scatting, which is disastrously bad, but kind of ends up being sort of virtuosic, and it ends with like a big crazy long note. And at the end we decided that I would dance well. Like the idea was that she would like dance well and she would like scat and kind of start to be cool. And at the end everyone else would exit and it would just be me with the flyer. There was like one flyer left, and I would crumple the flyer up, and then the cityscape was like the upstage, and I would throw as hard as I could, throw the flyer up like over the city buildings, and then like pose, and the lights would change, and that was like the end of the number. And then I would change. Like that was the only time that dress was featured in the show, and the lights during the like big dance break started making it shimmer and shine, and it was just so cool. Like that moment in that dress was so cool. And I loved doing that song. It didn't cost me anything. Like it was just so fun. Dancing was hard because I don't consider myself a dancer, and the dancing always freaked me out a little bit because I was surrounded by incredibly good dancers. I would always be like, don't fuck this up, Bri. They're very good.
They were very good. They're like doing lifts and shit all around you.
Oh my God. Erica, Stefan, and I, have you ever heard us talk about the pancake lift?
Oh, no.
There was this lift in swing that Erica Stefan did with her partner where basically the guys would be standing facing the girl. The girl would go into a handstand. So like legs in the air, like the girls, and this is the guy's head, right?
Yeah.
Then the guy would walk into her in the handstand. She would hook her legs over his shoulders, and then he would flip her up into his face. So this is her head now, right? Her legs are still around his shoulders. And then he would pop her, like push her off, and she would like do like a jump lift off, where like a girl would like arch her back and like pop off of him and land. And we called it the pancake because it had to happen like this. The music went da 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 da. That was the length of the lift. And we would say, I don't remember like if the choreographer came up with this or Erica came up, but it was like, you do the pancake, you're coming down from the pancake. That's what we would say. And so it would be like, you do the handstand, you're getting flipped, and then you're jumping. Like that was the whole thing. It was this craziest lift I've ever seen in my life. And you know what I had to do in the back was like this. Well, like Erica risked her life. I did this in the back. Thank you, Golden Age musicals.
Wow. That's insane.
But yeah, the costumes were crazy. I also wore this plaid coat in the first time that you saw me. That
the one with the opposite buttons?
Yes. And she picked it with it was like this big scale, like orange and red, sort of garish plaid, but somehow it was gorgeous. And I also wore that finale outfit. Oh my God. When I heard that they sold this dress recently at one of their like costume sales, I was like, why didn't anyone tell me? I wish I could have bought it. It was I know who has it though, so I'll buy it from her one day. But she made this like, I called it couture because it felt like couture. It was like it was a tight red dress, and then it was strapless, and it had like a very structured off the shoulder top that came to points.
Oh,
It was sexy. It was good. It was
yeah.
bananas. That's real good.
I loved it. What I loved about in that swing number too is that you have all these people, as you said, dancing around you, and immediately that it's the 50s from that number. Like if you only
Yes.
saw that part of the play, you're like, oh, I can place this in time without it being a caricature. Because I think a lot of the times when we do 50s, it becomes like cartoony in a way.
Yes.
With the poodle skirts and the
No, I think there was only one sort
but
of
it was like
poodle.
authentic, beautiful, heightened, but real.
Yeah. Yeah, the women wore lots of like really breezy sort of short sleeve blouses that tied with like really cute high pants with belts with like sort of a tapered leg. And it was so chic. Like everybody just looked like just so good. It was just so good.
I loved that blue like suit dress that you wore also, that's in all the like press photos.
Yeah.
The little like Peter Pan collar.
Oh yeah. It was actually green. It was like a very springy green and yellow, like almost like I don't know what I would call that color. Puce. I don't know. It was like a very
no.
No, it was like a very bright yellow green. And it was also perfect because like that outfit went with all the scenes where people are like rejecting her for being too much. So it kind of was like she shows up in this like green tweed number and they're just sort of like, lady, you're a lot.
Yeah.
So no, it was all perfect. And everything was rigged to be changed in like 2 seconds. That was the other thing. Like everything was quick changes, that show. Ugh. My poor dresser for that show, Colleen. Colleen and I went through it. Colleen, yay, Colleen. We love Colleen. Colleen has been my dresser, I think without exception, for every Goodman show I've done, which is good because she gets it. She, like you, is one of my people. She's just, we just get it. So, but no, Colleen had to deal with broken zippers, broken shoes. I broke shoes like I broke shoes constantly because they weren't dance shoes, and yet I was dancing so much. And so I was just busting the straps on these shoes. So she always had just like shoes standing by. So, like when you have to carry shit like to the next change, Colleen was just always toting like in her pack, like an extra pair of my shoes, just like tucked in her butt. Oh yeah. And just sweat rags. I just sweat like a bucket, and she had to meet me for quick changes in the smallest places on the set. And it was just always so fun to like exit and like go through a door and be like, okay, be right back. Hi. And like we would just be like nose to nose for the change. Oh yeah. Good times. I did bust a zipper one time and have to do an entire number with my butt out. That
no
was
safety pins?
We didn't have time.
Yeah, it happens.
We spent all the time trying to get the zipper up,
Yeah.
It was one of those things where I can't remember if it broke or it was stuck. But it was our fastest change in the show from pajamas into the green suit.
Yeah.
And so I had to run off stage, get the top off, get the pants off, do the under. It was like one of those fake things where it's like a pencil skirt with like the fake under blouse that's actually sleeveless.
Yeah.
And then a jacket over it. So right. I had a jacket on, but then the whole bottom of the underdress was open.
Yeah.
So I did about, I don't know, 35 minutes of the show because I didn't come back. I did about 35 minutes of it with just knowing my butt was out. And I just like did everything like everyone was probably like, why does that girl only face front? Even when she exits, she just sort of like.
It's happened to all of us.
Truly.
It's very terrifying and awful. And sometimes you just can't do shit about it.
Do you have like a costume accident story that still haunts you?
Yeah. I'm gonna tell the low key version of it.
Great.
So it was the first time I did R&J at Shakes. It was a short Shakes, and Tybalt, Romeo fight, Tybalt dies. They carry him off stage, and he has ripped his jeans from crotch all the way up the ass to the waistband, like just the entire ass gone out of these pants. And for some reason they carry him on in the next scene, and they like put him on the stage spread eagle for like Lady Cap to come and be like, oh no, Tybalt. And so he has like 20 seconds or something, whatever the prince is, saying. I don't know how we worked it, because it doesn't actually make sense in my brain. But he came off stage for a second, and I slid underneath him like a mechanic underneath a car. And I'm like, all I have is red thread in his like black pants, and I'm just like sewing, and I'm trying to kind of, his area is, and so I'm trying to like not sew that together or be anywhere near that. And it was very sweaty, and it's dark, and I'm like face, and so I'm just like trying to not sew his junk.
You're trying to not sew his nuts
on my face.
Yeah.
And I just like put like 4 giant stitches in it and tied it in a knot, and off he went. And that's the reason that I say hello to everyone before the play.
Because you never know when you're going to be sewing someone's crotch.
Because I had not seen him all day, and then I'm trying to just like not be in contact with his genitals while he's sweating and has 20 seconds before he has to go on stage and be dead. And I was like, I haven't even looked at this person in the face, and now I'm like face in another part that I never wanted to be in my face. And then I was like, okay, fuck that. I'm never doing this again. I will see everyone before the show, and I will say hello.
I see. So that was the origin of the daily Jess Kenyon rounds of hello.
Yes.
That's very good. That's very good. Because your rounds are very comforting. Like, that's how I know we've begun. Like, that's what greets me. It's like I come into fuss at my station, take the temperature of the dressing room, see how's everybody doing, and then when it's half hour, you come around and you greet everybody, and you just sort of set the tone for like, here we are, everybody's here. Here's what we're doing today. And it's the best routine, really. But I don't think I realized that it came from such a place.
Such a sweaty, violent place.
Such a place.
Thankfully, that was like pretty early. It might have been my first like, I don't know. It was in the beginning of my career there, so it was a good thing to like learn early. I haven't had to sew too many crotches in quick changes. Sewed a lot of crotches regularly.
But on your own time.
Yeah, but before the show, like a normal person with their crotch sewing.
Oh my God, I love that.
Okay, well, we did it.
Huzzah!
We talked about
huzzah! Throw your spider. The best. I can't thank you enough. This has been so nice. I could chat with you all day, really.
I know. It wouldn't be a hardship for me either.
I love you. I'll talk to you really soon.
Okay.
You let me know if you need anything else, okay?
I will.
Okay, I love you.
Adios.